So when I started this channel, I said I would show the good, the bad and the ugly, and so I'm about to show a little bit of the ugly. My garden is such a shambles. I've got so many jobs to do. We've had a lot of rain and wind just now, and yeah, life has just been super busy. So the strawberries, I do need to repot some of these and just tidy them up, sort them out. We're still getting the odd strawberry through here, which is quite good. So we're into, where are we now? Middle of April. So for us, we're sort of halfway through autumn, and we're still getting the odd strawberries, which is good. And my black currants have just taken off. They stopped fruiting quite some time back, and now we've just got stuff everywhere going. I'm going to have to go on YouTube and check out what to do and have a bit of a think about how can I work out the structure for these plants next season. As you can see, it's going all over the show here, and yeah, we've got to do a little bit of taming of the blackcurrant, so that's some YouTube viewing for me to find out what to do. And I've got some raspberries here which have never really got themselves going, been nibbled a few times. I pulled my not peppers, they're sort of, I guess they're capsicum plants out, and they were hidden amongst the black currants, and I think they've been quite happy sitting here and just doing their thing, but they never grew very big, so I'll have to do a little bit of research, and I think it's time to prune them back and set them to bed for winter. My rhubarb has come back again. I've picked a whole heap of rhubarb, got some interesting thing happening on the leaves there, might have to take that one off. And the oh gosh, what's this called? Comfrey is kind of doing all right. I should take those leaves off and make some comfrey tea for the plants. So we've got a little bit of tidying up here to do, and I'm almost embarrassed to show you the disaster zones, but some of it is not too bad. I've given up harvesting tomatoes now because I've just got so many. So a lot of the tomato plants are dying back, and there's stuff on them that I may or may not harvest. We've got some through in here that are quite green. They may come. I'll leave those for a while. And the cucumber plants, I've had lots of cucumbers off these. They've gone on for ages. And we've got some tomato plants. Might get a few more Romas off those. And look at this. They're still flowering, even though nobody's told them that we're well into autumn. And we may get some of these Roma tomatoes to finish ripening up. I think the verdict on hanging them over the baths was reasonably successful, certainly for the cucumber plants, so I'll probably do that again for the cucumbers. And this one here, as you can see, it's getting tidy and old and things, but look at this. Look at this. We've got a cucumber there. And there's another one around here somewhere. Where did I see the other one? There it is. Look. There's another one. So we're going to have some cucumbers, and this is Tommy. The cats, unfortunately, think that the bath is their toilet, so that's another thing to deal with. Now the lettuces, I just let them all go to seed. They all died off, and I just put them in here, and the idea was that I would just compost them down. But look what they've done. They've grown again, so I've got my lettuces. Oops, I just pulled that out by the roots. But we've got lettuce coming out, which is quite tasty. And I'm not quite sure where the onions came from. Must have left a few onions behind. As I say, I have stopped harvesting these yellow tomatoes. We have just so many of them. And in here is a bit of a disaster. The plant's dying off, and most of those are being eaten by slugs and snails, or they've got some kind of blossom end rot going on. So this whole bed has got to be cleared out. And these, once you stop harvesting the yellow ones, they just get too wet and start to split. So we'll just see what happens. And this plant, this one, it kind of did all right, hanging the tomatoes over the side of the bath on some of them. Yeah, so that might be something I'll pursue next year. I've got a list of the plants that I want to harvest. So as you can see, we had a lot of wind, blew everything all over the place. Oh look, we've got some potatoes growing up there. So this area I'm going to dismantle. And I thought I might let the chucks help me tidy it up. Obviously the tomato plants have all died off. We've got quite a few slugs in this area. And I'm just going to pull out all my support structures and put the hens on here. Not quite sure how I'm going to do it. Might have to do it in sections. And this bed here is the tomato plants are all dying off. And again, we need to just pull everything out and put the bed to rest for winter. I've also got this blackcurrant bush here, which is going everywhere. As you can see, look at it, it's all over the place. I did try to hang it on the fence, but then the alpacas eat it, so they've pruned it for me. So I've got to figure out what we're going to do there. So this is one messy garden. I put the tarp down just to help kill off some of the weeds, but that was before I had the thought of putting the hens on this area and just letting them help me just kill off the weeds for me. Again, we've got stuff, some of the things I just left in there, but I've got tomato plants to come out, and the flowers are just doing their own thing. Pull these tomato plants out, and yeah, that's a mess. Put the sunflower stalks down with the idea that they might compost down, but I think really they're too big, so I'm going to have to take them up. I'm going to try and figure out a way of leaving some of these flowers in the corners of the beds. We'll work on that one. And everywhere you look, the plant is like dying, and then suddenly you get this new burst of green coming off. I don't like actually destroying them when they've got green, but I think I had about 6 or 7 of these yellow tomato plants, and to be honest, enough was enough, and I don't want to. And look at this flipping butternut squash bed. Did anybody forget to tell them that it was autumn and they have to go to sleep now? Most of this was like dying off and dead, and then we've got butternut squashes coming again. I've got absolutely no idea if they'll make it to maturity, or even if they've had enough pollinators around to actually get them pollinated. But we'll just leave them and let them do their thing, and we'll see what happens. And likewise, we've got capsicums growing there. There's one that's fairly large. There's about 3 or 4 on that plant. And lo and behold, a potato. Where did you come from? I'm not sure what this is, but it can stay there. There's a bit more of it over there, but we'll wait and see what happens. This bed had a few tomato plants in which never really got off. They were like the leftovers, and I just popped them in the bed, and they never really got going. So I will just pull all these up and put them to bed. So I think some of them I'm going to pull them up, and the idea of just letting them decompose down into the bed is kind of alright, except that they start to grow again. So we'll just have to see what we do with that. And excuse me, but we've finished flowering now, tomato plant. Yeah, interesting. Don't know if you can see that little waspy, whatever it was. So yeah, the tomato plants are totally confused because they've thrown out some flowers again. But that's the garden. Quite shambolic. I'm quite embarrassed, to say the least. Lots of work to tidy up. The flowers are doing fine. Let's have a look at the other side. So over this side we've got yams, which are not ready to pull. That's these guys here. This is the yams. So it's like a root crop as well, and they apparently need about 10 months in the ground. And they've set flowers again, so I don't know what the plants are thinking about with this season. So we've got some more kumara to pull out, which is starting to look like it's ready. I'll give it probably a bit longer, I think, just because there's so many other jobs to do. But I haven't had as much kumara out as I was hoping. It's been a bit disappointing. So most of the pumpkin has come up. I've pulled it up, and this place over here was where the kumara was. But yet the pumpkin is carrying on doing its thing. We've got some pumpkin things going down there. And yeah, we've got some pumpkins growing down there, so whether they'll get a chance to get to maturity, who knows. But the hens are doing quite a decent job for me in this area by just turning things over. So we're still, as I say, quite messy in here. And finally, the last little piece is the tomatoes that grow in the compost. So I trimmed them all back a little bit yesterday just to hopefully get some sun to these green tomatoes and see how many of them I can actually harvest. There is heaps in here, literally heaps. But as it gets towards the end of the season, they all start to get kind of a rot thing happening, as you can see on that one down there, and these guys down here. So a lot of them just rot. We've got a few. Oh look, we've got one there that looks like we could harvest it pretty soon. So yeah, that was the compost tomatoes. So those are the jobs to do in the garden, plus the other tidying up. And these are the winter seedlings getting ready to be planted out. So broccoli and beetroot, cauliflower, and some Savoy cabbage, and I bought some broccoli from the garden centre, and some more there. So these are all waiting to get planted out. So I think I might put these into containers rather than beds. We'll just see. We've still got cabbage white moths flying around, and lots of slugs around, so I don't want them to be too vulnerably placed for all those critters that are going to eat them before they can grow. And up here we've got the harvesting of the pumpkins. In those bags I've got the potatoes, and in these bags I've got more potatoes as well. And the kumara, there's not very much of it. A few more pumpkins on here, butternut squash, and I think I've got some more kumara in there to deal with. So yeah, that has been a very successful season, and I sat down the other day and decided what I was and wasn't going to plant. And I don't think I'm going to plant any tomatoes. I'll show you why. So this is what a chest freezer looks like that is pretty much chock-a-block full of tomatoes and onions, but mostly tomatoes. So I think I've got enough tomatoes for next season. Catch you later.